Picture this. It's 1977, just months before the world would lose its king. Elvis Presley, exhausted from years of fame, receives a desperate letter from a small-town nurse. Her patient, a 42-year-old mother of 3, lies dying in a hospital bed, whispering one final wish, to hear Elvis sing "Love Me Tender" just one more time. What Elvis did next would defy every rule of celebrity, every boundary of human kindness, and prove that beneath the sequined jumpsuits and sold-out stadiums beat the heart of a man who understood that sometimes love means everything. This isn't just another Elvis story. This is the moment that revealed the soul of America's greatest entertainer, and it will change how you see both fame and humanity forever. The Memphis rain drummed against the windows of Graceland as Elvis sat hunched over his morning coffee, surrounded by the usual mountain of fan mail. His manager, Curl Parker, had been pushing him toward another grueling tour, but Elvis felt something different that October morning, a restlessness that couldn't be cured by another stage, performance, or another crowd screaming his name. Among the thousands of letters sat one that would alter the course of his final months. Written in careful handwriting on hospital letterhead, it came from Sarah Mitchell, a night shift nurse at St. Mary's Hospital in Tupelo, ironically, just miles from Elvis's birthplace. The letter began simply, "Mr. Presley, I know you probably won't read this, but I have to try." Sarah wrote about Marion Coleman, a 42-year-old mother battling terminal cancer. Marion had been a lifelong Elvis fan, collecting his records since she was 16, attending his concerts whenever he came within driving distance of their small Mississippi town. Now, confined to a hospital bed with weeks to live, Marion's only request wasn't for more time, more treatments, or even to see her children grow up. She simply wanted to hear Elvis sing "Love Me Tender" one more time. She hums it every night. Sarah wrote, "Even when the pain medications make her delirious, she hums your songs. Yesterday, she told me that if she could hear you sing just once more, she could let go peacefully. I know this is impossible, but I thought maybe, just maybe, you might send a signed photo or a recording." Elvis read the letter 3 times, each reading making his chest tighter. He thought about his own mother, Gladys, and how she'd hummed those same songs to him when he was scared or sick. He remembered the countless nights when music had been his only companion, his only comfort. Here was a woman facing the ultimate loneliness, and "Music is Music" was her final request for companionship, not by that afternoon. Elvis had made a decision that would shock everyone around him. He wasn't going to send a photo or a recording. He was going to Tupelo himself. When he announced his plan to his inner circle, the response was immediate and unanimous. Absolutely not. His bodyguards cited security risks. His business manager worried about publicity, and his doctor reminded him of his own failing health. But Elvis's mind was made up. "She's dying," he said quietly. "If my music means that much to her, then I'm going to sing for her." Within hours, Elvis had chartered a small plane and assembled a minimal crew. Just his guitarist Charlie Hodge, his bodyguard Red West, and his personal physician, Dr. Nicopolis. No cameras, no press, no fanfare. This wouldn't be a publicity stunt or a career move. This would be pure human kindness. The kind that happens when celebrity walls come down and one person reaches out to touch another's soul in their darkest hour. As the plane lifted off from far Memphis, Elvis stared out at the darkening sky, knowing that what he was about to do would either be the most meaningful performance of his career or a gesture that would forever change how he understood his own purpose as an entertainer. The small plane touched down at Tupelo Regional Airport at 11:47 p.m., its landing lights cutting through the Mississippi darkness. Elvis pulled his collar up against the cool October air, his famous features hidden beneath a simple baseball cap and dark glasses. For once, he wasn't the king of rock and roll. He was just a man from Mississippi, coming home to help someone in need. The drive to St. Mary's Hospital took only 12 minutes, but to Elvis, it felt like a journey through time. These were the same streets he'd walked as a poor kid, the same neighborhoods where he dreamed of making it big. Now, 30 years later, success meant something entirely different than he'd ever imagined. Sarah Mitchell was finishing her rounds when the hospital's front desk called her with an impossible message. "There's a man here says he's Elvis Presley, and he's asking for you." Sarah's first instinct was to hang up. Prank calls weren't uncommon at the small hospital. But something in the receptionist's voice made her pause. "He knew about Marion Coleman," the voice continued. "He said he got your letter." Sarah's hands trembled as she walked toward the lobby. When she turned the corner and saw him standing there, slightly heavier than in recent photos, tired-looking but unmistakably him, she nearly collapsed. Elvis removed his glasses and offered that famous smile, but his eyes held something different. Genuine concern, not performance. "Ma'am, I'm here about Marion," he said simply. "Is she awake?" The next few minutes passed in a blur of whispered conversations, security checks, and hushed phone calls to the hospital administrator. Marion was indeed awake. The pain had been keeping her up, and she'd been humming "Can't Help Falling in Love" when Sarah had last checked on her. The medical team quickly assessed the situation. While unconventional, a brief visit from Elvis couldn't harm Marion's condition, and might actually provide the emotional comfort she desperately needed. Room 314 was at the end of a long, dimly lit corridor. As they approached, Elvis could hear a soft, weak voice humming one of his songs. He paused outside the door, his hand on the handle, suddenly overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. This wasn't about him, wasn't about his career or his legacy. This was about a woman facing death who found comfort in music, in the songs he'd poured his heart into decades ago. That Elvis knocked gently and entered. Marion Coleman lay propped up in bed, her once brown hair now thin and gray, her face gaunt, but her eyes bright with medication and determination. When she saw him, her expression cycled through disbelief, wonder, and finally, pure joy. "Are you real?" she whispered. Elvis sat in the chair beside her bed and took her hand gently. "I'm real, sweetheart. I got Sarah's letter, and I came to sing for you." What happened next would be remembered by everyone present as one of the most powerful moments of their lives. Without any accompaniment except Charlie's quiet guitar, Elvis began to sing "Love Me Tender." His voice, weathered by years of performing and personal struggles, carried an intimacy and emotion that no stadium could contain. Marion closed her eyes and smiled, tears streaming down her cheeks as Elvis sang not just that song, but "Can't Help Falling in Love," "It's Now or Never," and "Amazing Grace." For 30 minutes, Room 314 at St. Mary's Hospital became the most exclusive concert venue in the world, with an audience of one dying woman who needed music more than medicine. As dawn broke over Tupelo, news of Elvis's midnight hospital visit began to spread through the small medical facility like wildfire. Nurses whispered to each other during shift changes. Orderlies shared impossible stories. And by morning, the entire hospital staff knew that something miraculous had happened in room 314. But what surprised everyone was Elvis's request. No publicity, no photos, no media attention. "This is between Marion and me," he told the hospital administrator. "Let's keep it that way." Marion Coleman lived for 18 more days after Elvis's visit, far longer than her doctors had predicted. During those precious final weeks, her demeanor transformed completely. The crushing depression that had accompanied her diagnosis lifted, replaced by a peaceful joy that amazed her medical team. She spoke constantly about the night Elvis came to sing for her, but always with the reverence of someone who had experienced something sacred not sensational. He didn't come as Elvis the star, she told Sarah Mitchell during one of their late-night conversations. He came as a man who understood that music could heal what medicine couldn't touch. He saw me not the dying woman, not the cancer patient, but me, Marion, the girl who used to dance to Hound Dog in her bedroom when she was 16. The nurses noticed that Marion's pain seemed more manageable after the visit. She required fewer medications, slept more peacefully, and spent her waking hours humming the songs Elvis had sung for her. Dr. Patricia Evans, Marion's oncologist, would later write in medical journals about the profound impact that emotional comfort could have on terminal patients' quality of life, though she never mentioned Elvis by name, honoring his request for privacy. Word of Elvis's gesture spread quietly through Tupelo's tight-knit community. People who had known him as a poor kid from East Tupelo began sharing their own stories of his kindness, the time he paid for a stranger's groceries, the Christmas he bought bicycles for every child in his old neighborhood, the countless small acts of generosity that never made headlines. This midnight hospital visit seemed to crystallize something essential about Elvis's character that fame had often obscured. Charlie Hodge, who had accompanied Elvis that night, later reflected that he saw a side of his boss he'd never witnessed before. "I'd played for presidents and kings in sold-out arenas with thousands screaming," Charlie remembered. "But I'd never seen Elvis more focused, more present than he was singing for Marion. It wasn't about performance, it was about connection." Red West, Elvis's longtime bodyguard and friend, noticed a change in Elvis during those final months of his life. The midnight trip to Tupelo seemed to remind Elvis of why he'd started singing in the first place, not for fame or money, but because music had the power to touch people's souls. He'd been lost for a while, Red would later say, struggling with his health, his career, his purpose. But that night in the hospital, he remembered who he really was. The hospital staff created an informal code of silence around the visit. When Marion passed away peacefully on November 2, 1977, her obituary mentioned only that she died surrounded by family and the music she loved. The true story of Elvis's final act of kindness remained locked in the hearts of those who witnessed it, a sacred secret in a world that had commercialized every other aspect of the king's life. Marion's family later established a small music therapy program at St. Mary's Hospital, funded by anonymous donations that many suspected came from Graceland. The program brought live music to terminal patients, understanding that sometimes healing comes not from medicine, but from the simple human act of one person singing to another in their darkest hour. Marion Coleman died peacefully in her sleep on November 2, 1977, with Elvis's songs playing softly on a small radio beside her bed. Her final words to Sarah Mitchell were simple but profound. "Tell him thank you. Tell him he gave me exactly what I needed to let go." 3 months later, the world would mourn as Elvis Presley himself passed away at Graceland. But those who knew about his Midnight Mercy mission understood that his true legacy wasn't measured in record sales or sold out. Concerts it was measured in moments like these. Sarah Mitchell kept her promise to Marion, writing one final letter to Elvis in July 1977. She described Marion's peaceful passing and conveyed her final message of gratitude. Elvis received the letter during his last weeks at Graceland, and according to those close to him, he carried it in his pocket until the day he died. The letter was found among his personal effects, worn from repeated reading, a testament to how deeply experience had affected him. The story of Elvis's 500-mile journey might have remained buried forever, if not for a remarkable discovery. In 1997, 20 years after both Elvis and Marion had passed away, while cleaning out Sarah Mitchell's home after her death, her daughter found a carefully preserved manila envelope labeled "The King's Kindness." Inside were photographs that Sarah had secretly taken that night, not for publicity, but for Marion's family images of Elvis holding Marion's hand. singing to her and sharing a moment of pure human connection that transcended celebrity. Dr. Patricia Evans, Marion's oncologist, finally broke her 20-year silence in a 1997 medical journal article titled "The Healing Power of Unexpected Grace." Without revealing names, she documented how a surprise visit from a beloved musical artist had dramatically improved her patient's final weeks, reducing pain medication needs by 40% and providing psychological comfort that no medical intervention could match. The article became a cornerstone study in the emerging field of music therapy for terminal patients. Charlie Hodge, in his memoirs published in 2001, devoted an entire chapter to that night in Tupelo. He described it as the night Elvis remembered his purpose. According to Charlie, Elvis spoke frequently about Marion Coleman during his final months, saying that singing for her had reminded him that music was meant to be medicine for the soul, not just entertainment for the masses. He said it was the most important performance of his life, Charlie wrote, because it was the only one that truly mattered to someone. The St. Mary's Hospital Music Therapy Program, still operational today, has served thousands of patients. Over the decades, a small plaque in the hospital lobby reads simply, "In memory of Marion Coleman and in honor of the healing power of music." Most visitors assume it commemorates a former patient, unaware that it also honors one of the most private acts of kindness by one of the world's most public figures. Red West, before his death in 2017, revealed that Elvis had planned to establish a foundation for music therapy in hospitals nationwide. Documents found in Elvis's personal files outlined his vision for bringing live music to terminal patients across America, inspired directly by his experience with Marion. The foundation never materialized due to Elvis's death, but the dream lived on through the countless musicians who, inspired by the story, began visiting hospitals on their own. Today, the room where Elvis sang for Marion, now room 314B, after hospital renovations, houses the facility's music therapy center. Terminal patients and their families gather there weekly for live performances by local musicians, many of whom volunteer their time after learning about Elvis's midnight mission. The circle of kindness that began with one dying woman's wish continues to expand, touching lives that Elvis could never have imagined. The true measure of Elvis Presley's legacy isn't found in his gold records or his Hollywood star. It's found in the ripple effects of kindness that continued to spread from a single act of human compassion on a dark October night in 1977, when the king of rock and roll flew 500 miles to sing for an audience of one. This is more than just another Elvis story. It's a reminder that true greatness isn't measured by fame or fortune, but by our willingness to show up for each other in moments that matter. Marion Coleman needed music to help her let go, and Elvis Presley needed to remember why music mattered in the first place. Their brief encounter changed both their lives and continues to inspire acts of kindness today. Not want to experience the healing power of music in your own community? Consider volunteering at local hospitals, nursing homes, or hospice centers. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give is simply showing up with an open heart and a willingness to bring comfort to those who need it most. Your voice, your presence, your kindness might be exactly what someone needs to find peace in their darkest hour.